what I've tried to do over the last 13 years since I've been in the General Assembly is come up with practical solutions, common sense solutions to problems that we encounter. And one of the things that I've been working on for a couple of months and working with, I'm not an attorney, but the attorneys that help members of the legislature is to come up with a program and utilize an existing source of funds that we have that are used in our state budget to assist small businesses and small business growth. And what I'm announcing today is a piece of legislation that I would hope to introduce if I'm reelected on November 3rd to assist, and the way it's structured would assist cities like Waynesboro, who have about an 8% or more unemployment level at this point, and really assist small business people. One of the things that we've seen in the Commonwealth of Virginia over the last number of years is that is where job growth and the economic growth in the state has really occurred. About 75%, experts say, of job growth in Virginia and the United States comes from small businesses. I always like to give the example of one of the biggest success stories in small business is Bill Gates and some of his buddies started Microsoft in a garage. And now if you've ever been to, I've had the chance to go to the Microsoft headquarters in Washington, in Seattle, in that area. And it's a huge campus now. Obviously, we all know about Microsoft because we all utilize their products and their software. So that's an example of how small businesses can grow to be very active and viable facilities and businesses. Now, what I want to do is just briefly go down through the legislation. This is a starting point. Anytime you have a piece of legislation, there's always changes that are made, there are always suggestions, but this is what I have come up with that I think will not only help this area, but more importantly help small businesses across the state and in our region. And I think I've got a copy of the summary in there, an actual copy of the bill, and of course a press release related to what this program will do. Now, what I'm proposing as a small business job grant program and fund, and some people will say, well, why are you looking at a grant program? Well, for a couple reasons. One reason that I'm looking at small businesses, we have the tools in the state's toolbox already for larger manufacturing operations. We have the toolbox tools in the toolbox for economic development for larger facilities and businesses. We also have a loan program for small businesses within the state, so we already have that. I work for a financial institution, and I know Bernie works with financial institutions. Many banks and financial institutions also, if you will, provide loans for small businesses and business people. So we have those tools in the private sector as well. But we've not had at the state level is a program, an incentive fund, or a fund that could be utilized by small businesses for job creation. And that's one thing that we've not had at the state level that I think would be beneficial. Now, this program would be administered by both the Small Business Financing Authority, which administers our loan program, and also the Department of Business Assistance, which the financing authority is under. It would provide funding utilizing the Governor's Development Opportunity Fund at $2 million a year out of that fund, which is existing. Some of our gubernatorial candidates have even talked a little bit about how it helps small businesses, so I think this would dovetail nicely with that discussion. But over the next biennium there, it's estimated that we'll have about $19.5 million in that fund, and basically for the first year that'd be $7.5 million, and the second year it looks like $12 million. What I'm proposing is we use $2 million each year, which would be $4 million for the 2-year budget, to be directed towards small business growth, job growth. And how this would work, it would be any independently owned business or operated business that has 250 or fewer employees. It also, the legislation, and I'm not going to go into all the details because it's in there, but as a definition of full-time positions and prevailing average wage, which is important for Waynesboro because Waynesboro would qualify, and any area in the valley or across the state that has about 8% or higher unemployment would qualify for this grant program. The purpose of the funds would be to create at least 10 new full-time positions within a 24-month period, that'd be a 2-year period, up to 50 new positions. And again, it's directed towards small businesses, so we're not looking for employers that are looking to create 300 jobs or 400 jobs. We already have programs in place and incentive packages at the state level to accomplish that, but we don't have something like this. The grants would be an amount of $500 for each new full-time position, and you again have to have at least 10 new positions and up to 50 in that 24-month period or 2-year period. I mentioned the unemployment rate. Basically, it would be based on an employment rate of more than 125% of the statewide average unemployment rate, and that again is about 8% or a little bit more for unemployment across the state. And again, Waynesboro, unfortunately, is the hardest hit of the areas that I represent, and I wanted to make sure I had something. That's why I'm doing this in Waynesboro, because I think that's where we really could benefit from something like this. The grant payments would be made to the small businesses after they've been able to show that they are retaining the full-time positions in a base year. Basically, you start a year and then see, and those positions are sustained, and that the grants would be paid out. Now, the devil's always in the details, and first we have to get legislation passed. I anticipate this would take place and become effective July 1 of next year. The department and the Small Business Financing Authority would have to work out some additional details from the standpoint of criteria and the like, but they do that now. I mean, they work with the loan program that's in existing right now, and I think this is something that could be very beneficial to our area and folks across the state. I also want to say that the reason I decided to do this is, again, when I talk to business people in this area of the state and the areas that I represent, they're concerned about the loss of jobs, obviously, across many sectors. But the small business people I've talked to have been really hard hit in many areas from the standpoint of what they're seeing. In fact, I had talked to one business owner and saw him again at the Fall Foliage Festival downtown Waynesboro. He used to employ about 4 people. He was hoping to expand and maybe get to the level where he'd have 10 or 12 people, but he is down to 1 full-time and a half or part-time person at this point. And I think with a program like this, when small business people are trying to come up with the capital to expansion, to do marketing and all those kinds of things, this is a way to kind of help jumpstart, provide them with some additional dollars, which hopefully would bring about some economic growth and really some assistance. And again, a tool in the state's toolbox that has not been there, and that is not something we've actually tried before. My opponent, I would say, the only program I know that he has supported related to job creation, there's a lot of talk about it, is Senator Deed's bill that did not pass in the last General Assembly session, dealing with a clean energy manufacturing incentive grant program. We already have manufacturing incentive programs in place. One, I think that's one of the reasons that legislation didn't pass. 2, we don't know exactly what the market will be for clean energy. We hope it's going to be something in the future, but I think there is some potential growth opportunity there. But the market will determine, and I think if we do incentives, it ought to be across the board, not just for one specialized sector, if you will, but for any kind of business. In fact, this program would benefit a clean energy manufacturer that's looking to locate into the valley. If they're having a couple hundred jobs and they want to create or have 10 more jobs to 50 more jobs, they would qualify for this program. So I looked at something I think that can go across the board and help many sectors of the economy, not just the clean energy, which is very fine if the market will determine that we have the opportunities here for that. So I tried to come up with something I think could apply there, but also more broadly to Bernie's business, to any other business in the Shenandoah Valley that's in that that area of employment growth and expansion. So with that, let me stop there.